Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session on the European Federation of Data-Driven Innovation Hubs. But mostly welcome to the Data Week, the whole event. We from EUHubs4Data, we are really excited of being organizing. This is our first major event, let's say, after the project started last year. We are very lucky to come with the support of the BDVA as co-organizer of this event, because given their experience and their knowledge, I am sure we are confident that the whole event will be a success. So again, welcome to this session, European Federation of Data-Driven Innovation Hubs. As you know, this session is part of the track that we from EUHubs4Data project are organizing in this event. Our track is basically the main purpose is to show all of you our activities, our achievements, objectives, and the main concepts that are behind our project, our objective of creating this European Federation of Data-Driven Innovation Hubs. But before moving ahead with the session, just let me remind you of some practicalities regarding the sessions. So all of you will be muted by default, okay? Only the speakers and the panelists will be able to speak. Of course, if you are not the speaker, turn off your video. And also use the Q&A box in the GUBA platform to post your questions and comments. Okay, they will be addressed in time. We will define two time slots to answer and also to answer your questions, and I will explain later on during the agenda. Okay. Also, if you want to speak, please raise your hand using the features of GUBA or Zoom. And well, myself or my colleagues in the background will give you the floor to ask the question. Okay. Finally, if you have any technical issue, well, contact the Zoom host or co-host. I see that our colleagues from BDVA are posting messages about how to use Zoom and so on. So very much appreciated if you can again just talk by the chat. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, the objective of the session of today is quite ambitious, because our idea is to address how to create a sustainable federation of data-driven hubs which is attractive to internal and external stakeholders, but also that provides value to the whole ecosystem in Europe about data-driven innovation, and finally, who contributes to the creation of European common data spaces. As I will explain later on, this is the main objective of our project, EUHubs4Data. And also, as you can imagine, it involves many aspects. First, talking about challenges, okay, interoperability, data governance, sustainability, ethics, legal, interconnection, and many others. Okay, some of those challenges will be addressed today in the session, but some others will be addressed on the different sessions that our project, my colleagues, partners of EUHubs4Data are organizing in the rest of the event. So I encourage you to go to the agenda and see how some of those challenges are addressed during this event. But also, we are going to talk about value. And at the end of the day, this project and this federation is about collaboration and how we, all of us, could get value out of this collaboration. So again, this session will be also not only about challenges, but also how all of us could get value out of this collaboration, out of this federation. So again, some of these aspects will be addressed by my colleagues, partners of EUHubs4Data in different sessions of the event. I encourage all of you to go through the agenda. I listed here the sessions. So we already had these sessions about SMEs, data services by SMEs for SMEs, that was run by our colleagues for the Digital SME Alliance. But also tomorrow we have a session about exploitation and sustainability, run by our partners from CARSA. Also another session about the skills in our federation, technical challenges for sure, on also tomorrow. Also another session of SMEs and how can SMEs promote citizen-centric AI and responsible data use. And finally, our colleagues from IDSA will run this connectors party to show you aspect about interoperability and the connectors that we are using in our project. So before moving ahead, just let me introduce myself. My name is Daniel Alonso, and I am project manager at ITI, Research and Technology Center in the Valencia region in Spain. I am also the coordinator of the project, EUHubs4Data. I am also really happy to present to you the list of the speakers that we have today in our session. We are really proud and really honored to come with all this contribution to this session. We have representative from the Commission, Kimmo Rossi, who is the head of research and innovation in the data policy unit in DG Connect. but also Anne-Marie Sassen, who is acting head of unit in the unit A4. We really appreciate your support, Kimo and Maria, as usual, and really happy to have also you here in the session. We also count with Anna from BDVA DAIRO. She's the Secretary General. I guess that all of you already know her. And again, she's a key actor in our project, but also in the whole community. And she will talk about, okay, the long-term strategy for our federation. Then Barbara from Know Center, she's project manager in Know Center, and she's leading the task of expansion of our federation in the project, EUHubs4Data. And she explained about this strategy to expand the federation with new DIHs in our project. We also count with Joan from EURECAT. He's also part of the project, and he will talk about the alignment of the project EUHubs4Data, the new hubs, but also with the AI Spaces group of BDVA DAIRO. And finally, we count with the testimony of two other colleagues, Marcin and Aiga. Marcin is the head of IoT Networks Department in PSNC. They are coordinating the HPC for Poland Digital Innovation Hubs. They are also partners of EUHubs4Data. They are just a new AI space in the ecosystem, so it is also very relevant for us to count with his testimony about just to get feedback from their experience to be part of BDVA and the project. And finally, Aiga, who is the executive director of the Latvian IT cluster. They are also a new iSpace. They became iSpaces last year. They are not part of the project EUHubs4Data yet, hopefully yet, but she will also talk about their experience also to be part of the ecosystem and about value and challenges being part of the potential federation. So now this is the agenda for the session of today. Again, first we will start with the talks for the Commission. Anne-Marie and Kimo, they will set up the scene and provide some context. Anne-Marie from the point of the DIHs, but Kimo from the point of data. Just to take the floor to the rest of the speakers, after that, I will just present a few facts about the project EUHubs4Data to provide you with some context to those of you not completely familiarized with the project. And then I will give the floor to the rest of my colleagues. Anna will present just the Federation of Hubs, but also the mid and long-term strategy that we are developing in our project. Barbara will talk about the expansion of the Federation. Joan about the alignment with the BDVA DAIRO spaces. And as I mentioned before, Aiga and Marcin will present their views about how to be part of this potential group federation project and group of spaces. And finally, we will have a Q&A and discussion. Yes, I have to mention that after the talks of Anne-Marie and Kimo, we will be able to take questions for them, okay? So we will open this time slot to ask questions for them. I have also some questions from my side, and then we will move to the rest of the speakers. And we'll open this final slot with Q&A and ask a question for the rest of the speakers, okay? So this is just all from my side. Now I will give the floor to Anne-Marie Sassen. Again, she's acting head of unit of unit A4. And probably, as you know, she's one of the persons who knows more about the role of DIHs in the new Digital Euro program. So Anne-Marie, now the floor is yours. I'm stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Danielle. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
The presentation? Yeah.
Perfectly.
Okay. So thank you very much for this introduction, and also thank you for inviting me to the panel and to explain the objective of the network of European digital innovation hubs. And I want to put that into the context of a recent communication which the Commission has issued. It's the 2030 Digital Compass. And within this communication, we use the metaphor of a compass to have a vision on where the European Union should be regarding its digital transition in 2030. So there are specific targets mentioned in 4 cardinal points of the compass. And these are related to digital skills, to the digital infrastructures that we should have in Europe into 2030, to the level of digitalization of businesses, and also the amount of e-government services which should be available. And the targets you can see here on this slide. And I want to focus on the ones of the businesses, because there we really want to use the network of European digital innovation hubs to reach these targets. And to make one target which is particularly interesting for you, as all data hubs, it's the uptake of big data. So we foresee that in 2030, 75% of all companies should be using big data. At the moment, that's only 14%, so this is quite an ambitious goal. The same goals we would have related to the use of artificial intelligence and also the use of the cloud. So we want to reach these targets in 2030. And in order to do that, we want to use the network of European Digital Innovation Hub, which we are selecting at the moment. So every of these Digital Innovation Hub, they should provide technological expertise and also experimentation facilities to let SMEs, but also the public sector organizations, understand better digital technologies, see what the added value is for them to make their business more competitive, to make their products more innovative, or to change their business models. And so we want to have 200 of those. They should be geographically spread all over Europe, so that there's always one near every business or public sector organization. And that then these companies, they can get help in their local language, and also that the Digital Innovation Hub nearby understands better the local context of these companies. So understands also, what are the main industries in this region, and also where do we need to go with these industries. So this network of hubs, we are selecting all those hubs together with the member states. We are also investing with the member states in these hubs. So 50% of the funding will come from the European Union and 50% will come from the member states. So the selection process is therefore also a two-step selection process, where we had first member states pre-selecting all the candidate European digital innovation hubs. And out of all the ones selected by the member states, the European Commission will, through a restricted call, select the network of 200. And at this stage, 27 countries have already pre-selected their candidate entities, and we have a list of 334 pre-selected candidates. So every one of these hubs will have their own specialization, and that specialization, it should be based on the strengths which are available within the consortium, and then it should respond to the needs of the local economy. So all these specializations, they will come bottom up, and we have made a preliminary analysis of the selection of the specializations of the 334 selected candidates, and we can see that 211, they have a specialization in artificial intelligence, 95 in high performance computing, 137 in cybersecurity. But we also see that out of these 334, 58 state that they have a specialization in big data. So they have knowledge about big data and competences, and they are able to help SMEs or public sector organizations with questions on how to make better use of data. We also see on the lowest row on this slide, you can see different economic sectors that they are addressing. For instance, agri-food, but also some are also specialized in tourism or energy. So we see a whole range of specializations. We've also made a catalog of all these 334 candidate entities. And if you would be interested in who are these 58 specialized in big data, you could do a query here and get a list of all those hubs. I hope also that some of you are also among those candidate entities. And one important, issue is the networking of all these hubs. So we will have 200 individual European Digital Innovation Hubs, but of course we want them to work together, because otherwise, you know, every hub would do their own thing, and we would have no connection. So we see the networking for several issues. The first one is exchange of best practices. So here, what we think is that from the 200 hubs, there will always be subsets of those hubs that have a common interest. For instance, already your topic that was addressed, which will be addressed by your project that you have now. The you know, what are the challenges for better data sharing, and how to derive value from the data sharing. For instance, those could be questions which are also addressed among a sub-network of the hubs. Of course, hubs can also be interested in other things. For instance, they could be all hubs that are situated in very sparsely populated areas. So they could then also discuss how can we best attract talent in our regions, or other things that are of common interest. So those sub-networks for exchange of best practices, they will really help everybody to develop quickly a good offer, and to learn from others, and therefore, be better placed to offer a very good service to the local stakeholders. A second type of networking that we see, it's called the one-off networking in this slide. And that would be based on specific needs of customers, because every digital innovation hub will be specialized. It also means that on other areas outside your specialization, you don't have the right competences. But then it's very likely that one of the other hubs in the network will have such competences and would be better placed to help this customer. So that's the one-off networking that we foresee, and that would be organized by kind of matchmaking, which will be developed by a support action that we have for the network, which is called the Digital Transformation Accelerator. And then we foresee also a third level of networking, and that would be a structural networking. And this will happen over time. We don't expect that to be there from the beginning. But if, for instance, sub-networks, they are discussing common challenges together, and maybe they are also identifying good solutions to these challenges, then it could be that they identify a common service which each of the hubs of the sub-network could provide to its customer. So that way we will get common services where you know, we have the economies of scale in developing the services, but then each of the hubs will have the benefits of providing that to their own customers. So that is something that we really aim for, that will happen, but it will happen over time once trust is developed among the different partners in the network. And that will then also lead to joint investments in infrastructure and services. It could also happen, and that is, for instance, something that your project is already preparing. You are already preparing some common solutions. If then some of you would become a European Digital Innovation Hub, it could well be that you already provide the services that you have developed now in your project as a common service to your own customers. And then, of course, that could happen from the beginning already. But that's only possible, in my point of view, for partners that have already worked together in a European project before, to establish the necessary trust and also to invest in these common services. What the digital innovation hubs also have to do is to diffuse the capacities that are being built up in Digital Europe program. So Digital Europe program, it invests in digital capacities. For instance, in the area of high performance computing, it will invest in new supercomputers. It will upgrade other computers to become even more powerful. And the idea is then that through the network of the hubs, local stakeholders could also make use of these digital capacities. So the example of Poznan, they know very well which companies in their region could use supercomputing for maybe for running simulations or doing data analysis. And then they could also make sure that these companies make use of the capacities that are being built up in the area of high performance computing. In the area of artificial intelligence, that's the strategic objective 2, we will be developing data spaces. And the data spaces are, of course, also very important for you as data-driven hubs. And the task then of the digital innovation hubs would be to also diffuse the use of these data spaces to the local SMEs who could benefit. Of course, only to the ones for who this would be a benefit to make use of these data spaces. So here we would see a second task where, again, the fact that the development of data spaces will take a very common, a very important place in Digital Europe program, that then also the data-driven hubs will have then a special role to diffuse those, to make sure that more companies will make use of those data spaces. The same with cybersecurity and trust, but given the lack of time, I will just move on. And then what I wanted to end with is a timeline of next steps that will happen. So I said that most of the member states have finalized their pre-selection process, and we are waiting for the restricted call to open. Unfortunately, I still don't know the exact date when the call will open, but we expect it to be at the end of June, beginning of July. And the deadline for submission of the proposals, it will be the 29th of September. This is all still draft. On the 1st and 2nd of June, so that's next week, we will have an info day about all of this. And I hope that by then we can give firm dates for the opening and the closing of the call. After we have, after you have written your proposals and they have been submitted, we will do the evaluation. That will be in October and November. And then in December, we hope to inform everybody about the outcome of the evaluation process, so that then in the beginning of 2022, we can really start with the network of European digital innovation hubs. And I also want to point to some further documentation that we have available. And there I especially want to mention the FAQ, which we have recently updated, and the webinars that we are organizing on several topics, where we go into more detail. For instance, what is the, how do you network? We have then a 2-hour webinar about that, where hopefully the questions of all the candidate European digital innovation hubs will be answered. So we will still be organizing more webinars, and if you would like to be invited to those, then I invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, because that will be the way to receive invitations. So with this, I want to stop, and I want to hand over to Kimo.
Perfect, Anne-Marie, thanks a lot. Yes, now we can hand over to Kimo. In the meantime, if you have any question for Anne-Marie, you can post it in the chat. After Kimo talk, we will try to address your question from our colleagues from the Commission, okay? So Kimo, now welcome, thanks for joining us, and happy to hear what you have to say.
First of all, thank you, Anne-Marie, for this very good, very complete presentation, so that it will be an easy task for me. I don't even need slides, because it was mostly all the facts and pieces were in Anne-Marie's presentation already, so I can just conveniently refer to that. Anne-Marie said something very important in the beginning, about the situation of big data uptake, so that it is one of those areas. It's the area where we have most catching up to do. So we have to go from 14% to 75%. And indeed, that's something that I believe we cannot achieve without a network of digital innovation hubs. And the word network is fundamental here, because the idea of digital innovation hubs is that they cover geographically the whole Europe. And that's still very important, even if we are we have been a lot migrating to the virtual reality, but the local reality is still a prevailing reality, and will be even more so after the confinement of the coronavirus. I'm sure that a lot of this lack in big data uptake is also a regional feature that we can only efficiently address by a comprehensive network, and also a geographically comprehensive network of actions. What we have in place already, and now I'm filling in the data part. So Anne-Marie is my colleague who is working in the DIH unit, and I am working in the data unit. So we have been doing something in DIHs already, which is somehow related and maybe relevant. We have been funding so-called big data incubators, one at a time, mostly throughout the Horizon 2020 program. So the first one was ODINE, the Open Data Incubator, then followed Data Pitch, which was boosting data-driven startups and SMEs, and not only open data, but business data as well, and linking them with public services and administrations. And then we have EDI, the European Data Incubator, which is still ongoing, and it's introducing a three-phase progressive incubation concept, where the candidates selected in the first round, the best of them will be selected to a second.
I guess that we lost Kimo for a while. Okay, Anne-Marie, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, and since while Kimo is reconnecting, maybe we have a question in the chat for you, but so someone wants to know if the 334 preselected EDIHs is the status as of fall 2020, right? So I guess this is the situation, but you already did it.
Yes, so this is the situation which is still valid today. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just to be sure.
Yeah.
Also, I have a question to you, because you have a lot of experience in DIHs. You have been working with DIHs for a while, and you talk about trust as a main aspect to create those networks of federation of DIHs. But in your opinion, and given your experience with DIHs and also experience from other network of DIHs, which is, in your opinion, I guess, the most challenging aspect to create those networks? In our case, as you can imagine, we have identified a few during our project, and we are struggling with them. But just beyond trust, besides trust, in your opinion, what other challenge aspect are also challenges? And maybe you have some recommendation for us in the project, how we can overcome these barriers and those challenges. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is a very difficult question that you ask, and I would also, maybe you would also have recommendations for me. You know what we have to take into account. But so I think first, what I heard from people who are thinking about this collaboration, it's indeed, if if you have worked before with other digital innovation hubs, maybe at the time when they were not yet a digital innovation hub, and you found also what we can do in common without it, you always have to look for the win-win situation somehow. So you don't you have to find something which all the hubs that want to work together, they believe in, that would be something in addition, and what they could do, and they cannot do it alone somehow. If you find that, and you also, you know each other, then I think it will be natural to work together. But if you are totally new to the network and you don't know anybody yet, then you just don't know where to start and what would be the things that really give added value. So I think in the beginning that will be searching for those topics that really you could do together. But then I believe that projects like you are really in an advantage in that respect, because you already now have the time. At least if some of you will become a European Digital Innovation Hub, if you are now among the candidate entities, you really already have time to think about what could we also, of this work that we are doing now, how can we take that a step further, and also as a European Digital Innovation Hub, build on those services and still keep on maintaining the services also together, for instance. So there you would really have an advantage already.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, basically it's about synergies and complementarities, and yeah, I completely agree with you. Thanks a lot. I guess that we already have Kimo back. Kimo, can you hear me now? Not yet. Not yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yeah,
Kimo, welcome back.
My camera doesn't work because I'm on a mobile device now. So I lost my network connection right in the middle. So sorry about that.
Perfect. No, don't worry. I just took advantage to ask Marie a couple of questions, but we can just continue with your talk.
So
okay.
So it's just that maybe I can just complete. Did you complete with Anne-Marie already?
Well, basically, I asked her about the most challenging aspect to compose those networks.
No, I just want to know if there are more for her, because I want her.
No, not at the moment. You can
okay.
Resume your presentation.
Okay. So we have these data incubators that I mentioned, and then we have now first few projects, 4 projects actually, from the Horizon 2020 topic DTICT5, which is Big Data Innovation Hubs. So we have our first generation of real digital innovation hubs for big data, but they have been only running since September, October last year. So they are relatively new, and EUHubs4Data is one of them. So Daniel's project is one of them, and has the interesting and important task of providing federation of these digital innovation hubs in general, but big data hubs in particular. So maybe to reach out those 58 hubs that Anne-Marie was mentioning in her presentation that have announced big data as one of their specializations. So EUHubs4Data project has this interesting task to now bring together the legacy activities in the incubators, the big data incubators, and then reach out to those some mostly unknown 58 local players in the field, and to see what are they doing and how could they work together. And some of them will end up to the final network that Anne-Marie was mentioning, the 200 selected hubs. the lucky ones will also end up to that network that will be supported under the Digital Europe program. But in any case, you will have an interesting task to reaching out to them and finding out. And I hope some of them will reply to your open calls and also be selected through the open calls of the EUHubs4Data project. So EUHubs4Data is in a certain way bridging this gap between the two funding programs. So Horizon 2020 program and the Digital Europe program that will big time be funding the digital innovation hubs. So this is basically what I am expecting to see to happen, because it will take about 1 year from now until these new DIH projects from a Digital Europe program will be running. So if Anne-Marie said that we don't have the work program adopted yet, we haven't launched the program yet, maybe it will be launched at the end of June, beginning of July. So it will take time. So during this time, we should not sit on our hands, but we should be fully preparing the ground for this hubs ecosystem. So important thing, Anne-Marie also mentioned the data spaces, which will also be supported through Digital Europe program. There is tomorrow another session on the role of data incubators, and it will also be not only data incubators, but also data digital innovation hubs. So these 4 new projects and their role in the provision and the emergence of common European data spaces. So don't miss the session tomorrow at 11:30 because it's very much related to this session. Okay, so sorry about the interruption. This was basically what I wanted to say and refer to Anne-Marie's excellent presentation.
Okay, Kimmo, so thanks a lot. And thanks also for promoting the session that we are organizing tomorrow with the incubators. We really forgot to having this session together with you tomorrow. And again, I encourage all the people to connect tomorrow. And actually, you already asked some of the questions that I have prepared for you. But also, we have this challenge Barbara will explain later on that we are running an open call for DIHs. So we are now 12 in the consortium. We have to reach at least 58. So we have there room to improve. So let's see if we can incorporate all of them in our consortium. I have a very specific question to you, Kimmo, regarding the data strategy that the European Commission published last year, but also the Data Governance Act. And it is a very practical question because we in the project, and Anna will explain later on probably, we are trying to define the data regime in our federation. And we realized that in the Data Governance Act, this role of data intermediary is defined. Okay, just to share, to provide data sharing services. So just very practical question, maybe you can help us on that. We are wondering whether in the federation, our hubs could play this role of data intermediary. How do you see it? Maybe it's too early because we are still expecting to the Data Act will be published this at the end of this year. But maybe we can just give us some recommendation on that. Or again, if it's too early, we can just discuss once the Data Act is published. I know if you have some ideas now.
Yes, actually, you don't have to wait until the Data Act, because these data intermediaries, they are regulated in the Data Governance Act, which is already available, published as a Commission proposal since late last year. So it's the Data Governance Act that's the legal instrument that will regulate data intermediaries, not the Data Act. Data Act will be regulating exchanges of data between companies and clarifying the the rights of data in various situations, like co-generation of data, who owns the data, who should be paid for it, and things like that. Now, but the Data Governance Act, in fact, yes, addresses data intermediaries as a group of businesses, and the purpose is to facilitate the business, clarify the business, and increase to create an environment of trust towards these data intermediaries. For first thing, you should not be worried about if you are already intermediating data that you are risk to be harassed by the administrative burden implied by this. It's not going to happen. First of all, this regulation, it's only in the proposal stage for the moment, so it's not prevailing law yet until the lawmakers decide to adopt it. That may still take a year or two. If you think back of GDPR, it took several years, 2 or 3 years before it was adopted. And even then, when such a regulation is adopted, there will be 1 year before it is applicable, and then maybe additional 2 years transition times for those data intermediaries that were already in place when the regulation came into force. So first of all, there will be plenty of time to prepare. Now, it is regulating, Data Governance Act is regulating indeed data intermediaries because it wants to create favorable conditions for them to conduct business, an act between data holders on one hand and data users on the other hand. And the idea is that the data intermediary is neither one or the other. So they are not data holders themselves, and they are not data users themselves, but they bring these two together. If somebody is handing out their own data, it's not a data intermediary. And also, if the data intermediary is also exploiting the data itself, it's not a data intermediary. So that's something very important, that data intermediaries is a special kind of business that makes its living by bringing the data source, data providers and data users, bringing them together, so making sure that the data users find the data that they need. So that's where this regulation applies, and it's a rather lightweight type of regulation. So it's not like a full accreditation system, but it's a lightweight regulation based on notification procedure. So basically, if you are in that business, you have to notify yourself to the competent authorities in your member state. And once you've done that once, it's fine. Then you can continue your business operations. And it should not be too much of a burden, administrative burden. And then the competent authorities from time to time, they will check compliance, that they comply, that you are doing what you declared that you are doing when you notified your business. That's basically how it works. Now, it's true that when you look at the Data Governance Act, Article 9 and 10, where it defines the kind of businesses that are covered by this regulation, it's rather general and on the general principle levels, and there will be a lot of still interpretation issues, that like, is my organization is it a data intermediary in the sense of this regulation? And to have more information about that, you have to go to the recitals of that regulation. Recitals are those numbered paragraphs that are at the beginning of the regulation. It starts from the first page when it has the word whereas, and then you have a long list of numbered sentences. So we will have among these recitals starting from recital number 22, we will have a more detailed description of what kind of organizations are covered by this data intermediary. And for one thing, it says that first of all, it has to be separate from the data provider and from the data user. That's one thing, so separate legal entity from those. But also that it is operating in open market in the sense that it is serving an indefinite number of data providers and an indefinite number of clients, the data users. So if it's only serving a closed club of selected data providers and selected data users, it's not a data intermediary in the sense of this regulation. So that might actually be the case in a digital innovation hub. If it's built around a certain local ecosystem of data producers and data users, then it might be a closed arrangement which does not fulfill this definition of a data intermediary. So that was maybe a bit complicated, but it will become more concrete if you just read the text of the proposed regulation. But it's only a draft, and it's not going to be exactly like that, the final adopted version. And that will go through the legislative process, will be extensively discussed in the parliamentary committees and the council working groups before it is adopted, so that there will be still plenty of opportunities to make sure that the wordings are correct and it's crystal clear for everybody. Like, is my organization a data intermediary or not?
Okay, Kimmo, thanks a lot. Very clarifying, and of course we will have a look to the next text to be sure of that. So again, thanks a lot. Very clarifying. I think that we don't have for much more. Maybe just there is Anne-Marie, if you are still with us. There is a question in the chat about the business models, let's say, for new EDIs in the program, because it seems that some member states will not be willing to finance the 50% of the hub. So they are asking for if there will be the possibility of different business models to organize and cooperate. So I don't know if you have an answer for that, or.
Well. So in every hub will get an individual grant, and you specify the work that you will do, and then 50% of the eligible cost will be paid by Digital Europe program. How to get the other 50%? Well, we hope really that member states will co-fund, and I think most of the member states will do that. And otherwise, yes, you have to think about contributions, for instance, from sponsors or from the SMEs you are helping, but somehow you need to get these other 50%. So different business models are necessary, and also sometimes it's even better to, for instance, ask a price for the service that you will give, because then you are sure that the company really needs it. If you give things for free, maybe there are companies who don't really need it who make use of it, and the ones who really need it, they are deprived because you already gave the service to somebody else. So in some economical experts say it's better to always have a price. So maybe that should be the case for the hubs that don't get the 50% of their member states. But in principle, I think most of the member states, they will also support their hubs. This is at least what we have heard. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Kimmo. Thanks a lot, Anne-Marie. I guess that your observations were very clarifying. Now, Maybe we can move to the next. And thanks for joining, and also thanks for your support as usual. We very much appreciate your presence here. We will move to the next list of talks, which starts for myself. I would like to introduce a little bit the EUHubs4Data project, but since we are running out of time, I will be very quickly and will leave the floor to my colleague Anna, who will explain better or in more detail the federation. So basically, as I mentioned before, the main objective is to create the European reference for data-driven experimentation and innovation based on the collaboration among initiatives as digital innovation hubs and other initiatives. The starting point is 12 DIHs that are part of the project at this time, but our idea is to evolve during the project, but also after the project with more DIHs that we will incorporate to our group, to our federation. Also very important for us is to liaise with the community in Europe, also other relevant initiatives. Some of them are here in this event, all of them are already contacted. So basically the idea is to give value to all the initiatives in Europe, bringing together this collaboration. The fourth point is about the offer. We are creating a federated catalog where all the members of the federation bring together assets to be available at the regional level. Also, we are attracting demand during the project based on 3 open calls for experiment, but also try to define a business and exploitation model that will be applied after the project phase. And finally, the future. The future is crucial for us because we are trying to create this long-lasting federation. And to this end, we are creating models for exploitation, sustainability, business, and governance. I will skip this slide because Anna probably will present better than me later on. And just my last slide is to highlight something that Kim already mentioned. Our project is a bridge between the previous program and the new program. And to this end, we are trying to align with the instruments of the Commission in the previous program, Digital Innovation Hubs, with the new instruments, data spaces, and the new network of EDIs in the new program. Also to keep together the PPP projects, big data value PPP projects running still at this time, and finally to showcase real and practical collaboration between the DIHs. With that, just a brief introduction from EUHubs4Data. I will give the floor to Anna. I will stop sharing my screen because it seems that I am preventing people to see it. So Anna.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel. Also, I'm very, very glad that Marie and Kimo, I'm very glad about the presentation because it has to be a lot what we're gonna present now. So I'm gonna give an overview of the federation, but more looking at where we are coming from and where we are heading at. And for that, what has been presented before, of course, is very important. I think most of you know me, so I'm Ana Garcia, Secretary General of BDVA, but here I play a double role as BDVA, but also as EUHubs4Data, because BDVA participates in this federation, because this is a very key strategic outcome of the work that BDVA and BDVA members and the projects of the PPP have been doing together. And for that, I tell a bit of history. I noticed among the participants, some of you are with BDVA for a long time. So, you know, we've been part of this big data value public-private partnership, and we have been developing this strategic research and innovation agenda that has been giving some inspiration to European Commission for the Horizon 2020. And also internally, we were developing as part of this strategic agenda, our concept of the data-driven innovation hubs that we were calling them I-spaces. We still call them I-spaces, where we defined a very good model based on real experiences, based on real cases of people that are today in the project, that are really front runners in this business, so to speak. And we were looking at the different dimensions that these digital innovation hubs, again, we used to call in, still we call them I-spaces, had to deal with. And we have built a network. And this and the network that you see here is larger than the one that Daniel has showed, because the project was built in 2019. And of course, we have been growing. But from now on, we hope we grow together and the federation takes over, let's say, in growing all over Europe. But the good thing, and now I'm referring to the previous presentation from Anne-Marie when she was looking at the 3 levels of collaboration of the networks of European digital innovation hubs. And she was talking, we start for the best practices, modern networking, lower the one-off. So there are different specializations, so people can use expertise of others. And then she was talking about this structural, much more difficult aspect of sharing infrastructure and services. Well, I have to say, and I will go in a moment into that actually EUHubs4Data is looking at this structural type of aspect, of course, ecosystem and networking. And why? Because the hubs have been collaborating already for many years, and this has built this trust that also Marie was talking about, and that's a very important foundation. So the foundation of this project is not a project out of anything, it's really years of hubs sharing what we have to do together, how do we need to collaborate at European level. And this gives birth to the federation that now is a project, but I refer to it already as a live kind of community much beyond the project. But also in parallel, and that has been the discussion, great input also from Kimo, and we had this morning also Ivo. So the data strategy also came along and so connected with the purpose of this federation. And data becomes a key topic for Europe. And of course, the Digital Europe program and Horizon Europe, but I wanted to emphasize again the input from Anne-Marie. For us, when we have been defining, now that we are working in, of course, implementing the federation, but also looking at how we want to see this federation for the future, what has been presented this morning, of course, is of great relevance. So you will see that in my presentation, I look at the perspective very inside out, so to speak, but it's clear to us, and that will come at the end of the presentation, that the ecosystem of regulation and also this network of European digital innovation hubs, testing and experimentation infrastructures, data spaces, many things that are being developed and many other initiatives are shaping and will shape the future of this federation. And that's key for us. We defined already a preliminary value proposition for the future. I mean, we have a value proposition for today, but we also build this kind of long-term value proposition. This is an ambition that today we have for what tomorrow this federation could really give offer. And we really think we can offer many things to many different stakeholders. I think the power of innovators, SMEs, and startups all over Europe is better known, but I would like to focus not only on experimentation, but scaling and internationalization and market update of their solutions, which really give us a lot of strength, can give us a lot of strength as a federation. Then if we look at either partnerships or alliances between industry and policymakers, and I already mixed with the policymakers to be a bit quicker, we really believe that the federation can become this experimentation playground for new policies. To have, I don't know whether some of you joined this previous session on data spaces, where Natalie was presenting actually this legal infrastructure and really how to look at regulatory aspects from an experimental perspective. So we really want to serve industry and policymakers in understanding what is going to be the impact and how and what is the impact of this regulation, because we plan, and we are already facing this case with the Data Governance Act. We want to really think and experiment within the federation. Of course, we have many researchers, and we think this is a fantastic tool to really transfer knowledge, not only at a local level, but now European level, and to really take research results to a level of exploitation, experimentation, and scaling. And even we need to think about how we really support this market uptake. So I think we are very much aligned with this purpose of really the compass that Anne-Marie presented this morning. But very important, and this is the last point, as we are building this federation that is a network, and I think this is also important for the future network that Europe wants to create, is we need to give a value proposition to these hubs. We need to find a sustainable model for them that is sufficient for a long-term operation. So it's very important to work in what is the really value proposition for these hubs as well. Daniel, I was expecting that you would explain this. You passed this to me because you are running late, but also I don't want to dedicate more time because actually my message was going to be about the central topic. But I want to explain before that that our federation wants to link the regional and the European dimension, and that has been also somehow explained for Marie, so I won't enter that. And it has this kind of almost marketplace demand and offer, and you will say what is the demand about. So there are data, so there is data sets, there are services of many different kinds. So we have demand and offer, and we have this demand and offer at the local and the European level. But I wanted to emphasize this ecosystem and community, because we have noticed that our federation can be a fantastic instrument for data communities that are built around running projects, that when the project ends, they don't have the means to continue because they're in different countries, different places, funding is gone. So already cases of how those communities can also use this federation through their local hubs to keep connected. It's a very nice kind of chapter that we need to look at. So we are really looking forward to the future. Our federation, similar to what Anne-Marie presented, when we talk about what are you federate, what is this federation about? And we have discussed a lot about what federation means and what we federate. We had so many discussions, and there are two different parts. The part on top, that is actually the one that is really driving very much the project at the moment, because it has this kind of infrastructure complexity, so to speak, is the federated catalog. We want to federate, we are federating data sets, so with the federated data catalog, federating services, and services incorporate, I think I have one slide later, a mix of services that are more expertise type of services with real, for instance, a lot of AI type of applications to build applications on top of AI, just to give an idea. But we also work with this ecosystem perspective, and the ecosystem perspective, it brings a lot of networking aspects. The sharing of best practices was mentioned before, but we think also we can create a new generation of digital innovation hubs with a lot of kind of principles and values, with an identity that is very important. For instance, we are looking a lot of how we really implement data quality or data ethics, and I will talk about that in a moment. So it gives also this kind of common principles in how we do things together. This is just to show you that at the moment, this catalog, you can go to the website of data sets, of services. Also, we have a fantastic training, building a fantastic training catalog, because the skills is very important and critical for us and this federation. But just I want to show you, and won't go to details into this small image that you see at the moment, that the amount of stakeholders and the ecosystems in between European and local is huge. And you will really need to build some kind of organization around these assets. This is just an example of how the existing services are organized in the catalog. So as I said before, if you look to the very left, you will see the different types that are more technical oriented. So really, for instance, AI analytics or technology oriented, to infrastructure access, very important as well, but also more the, let's say, expertise-based type of services. Then I wanted to talk very quickly and very high level that we are already thinking so much into the future that we are defining what is going to be our governance for the future. This is all in kind of, is put in a framework, but we knew when we did this assessment that all these initiatives like the European Digital Innovation Hubs Network and some others will shape us a lot, and therefore we are constructing our future from now onwards as we start collaboration with all these initiatives. But we really define a series of governance principles that I will show in a moment, because again are very kind of values oriented. We also want to make sure that we work a lot with the processes. Again, this is about this structure, infrastructure, a structural kind of federation that we have is very complex and requires a lot of interoperability. And interoperability now is a key word within the federation. Also, we have learned a lot about how integrate in our governance aspects of governance, organizational governance, governance of data spaces, data governance, infrastructure governance. So we are really working with all these kind of concepts to see how integrate them the best in the federation. Data ethics framework is very important for us. We will build a code of conduct that we're already working on it to integrate aspects of the data ethics framework, but also some principles that I will discuss now. of course, we are thinking our roles and responsibilities for the future. And we are looking at how, from a perspective of really how we are going to operationalize this, what is going to be the entity. We are also working on into the legal forms. And here it comes what Daniel was asking before, and the data regime. So when doing this, and this goes beyond the digital innovation hubs, if we do this kind of marketplace for experimentation with data sets, how do we fit in this data governance act as how this federating entity will lay in or in this regulation is something that our internal experts in the federation are looking at, and we have been looking already for months. This is just to show you some of the important principles that we want to build. Some of them are normal, like fairness, accountability, transparency, all these kind of things. But also, as I said before, there are aspects of data quality, data ethics, very central to data, and trustworthiness as well, that we want to make a brand almost out of it. We are also working with that operational model. So you see, we take it very seriously towards the future, that we want to operate, because once you federate a structure, you really need to create an operational model. Finally, just to close my presentation, we have started developing our strategic collaborations. And as I said before, this is what is shaping also our future. And therefore, still we know we will have to walk a lot of steps until the federation is constructed. I will show you, you will see a lot of logos, and many people will say, oh, I'm part of that logo and I haven't been contacted yet. No worries. Some people are already there, some others are in the plan. But we are already working with the data incubators and AI incubators, with networks of SMEs. I cannot stop for long. Data platforms and data service and technology providers, whether they are projects or not. Of course, European, let's say, open data portals or catalogs, the European data spaces, and we are waiting for them, but already doing a lot of pre-discussions. Of course, all the data initiatives that exist, and data innovation hubs networks, the ones of the past and the future, and AI platforms very intensively as well, and of course the policymakers. Finally, Barbara will talk very soon about the extension of the federation, so I'm not going to enter that. This is my last slide, just to say that our federation expansion goes beyond the coverage. It goes also to the point of enriching our federated catalogs. It goes very much to see how we integrate this federation into the European policies, how we are able to integrate different and diverse governance models, how we really evolve in this value proposition for our digital innovation hubs, and finally, how we define and implement business model and sustainability for the federation. We are working on it. And thank you, Daniel. This is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks a lot. So as you can see, our project goes far beyond the project lifetime. We aim to create this federation. As you can see, many aspects are included and are taken into account. And well, probably in following events, we will give you with more, we will see the progress that we have made on that. Thanks, Anna. Barbara, now is your turn. So you can take the lead from Anna, from the expansion, and you can just start explaining in more detail what we are doing in the expansion of the federation. So,
thank you, Daniel. Can you hear me? Can you see my slides?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel and Anna, for the introduction of the EUHubs4Data Federation, and thanks for the Data Week organizers to give me the opportunity to talk about the expansion of the federation. I will try to be quick because we only have a little bit less time left than we expected, so I don't want to take too much time away from the next speakers. The federation will evolve during and after the project with the ultimate objective of including relevant big data hubs from each European region. And if you have already listened to Anne-Marie's talk, you by now know that this is an objective, one of many, we actually share with the EDI, the Europe Digital Innovation Hub initiative. So I am Barbara Stettenmer, and I'm employed at the No Center in Graz, Austria. And the No Center is an Austrian excellent research center, digital innovation hub, and also education center. We are a core partner at EUHubs4Data, and together with Daniel Alonso from ITI, the coordinator of the project, we are leading the expansion efforts within the federation. In the next few minutes, I would like to elaborate on the expansion of the federation and provide the outlook for the next 2.5 years left from the funded project period. EUHubs4Data aims to build a strong European federation of data-driven innovation hubs to lower barriers to innovation for SMEs and startups. This journey has already started with 12 digital innovation hubs, No Center being one of them, but already explained before, it is planned to more than double the size of the federation during the remaining time of the project. This exercise will be used as a learning experience to identify barriers, refine the value proposition, and in general, keep defining the model that will rule the evolution of the federation once the funded project period is finished. The goal is to grow the federation up to 30 digital innovation hubs, expand from 12 to at least 20 different regions, and from 9 to at least 14 different countries within the next 2.5 years. The long-term expansion process, however, will be designed to add more digital innovation hubs, complying to the expansion strategy and its admission criteria after the first 3-year period has ended. And as we prepare for the upcoming expansion of the federation and have together set up the according process, we will continuously draw from the experience made along the way and consequently further develop and adapt the expansion strategy and all its aspects. We will be in close contact with the new DIHs to learn from their feedback and continuously enhance the process. And moreover, the Federation is aware that the value proposition for the new DIHs must develop in a direction where they apply to join the Federation without additional funding. And ideally, the successful implementation of the experimental SMA use cases, the created assets, the common catalog, network, and ecosystem will offer enough benefits to attract further DIHs and EDIHs and make further funding of the activities no longer necessary. In order to ensure an orderly and fair selection process, EUHubs4Data has launched an open call for DIHs. The open call has opened on the 13th of April and it will close on the 15th of June. All details about the open calls are presented and described in detail on the EUHubs4Data website. You can find the guidelines, you can find the process, you can find the eligible criteria, and all necessary steps are very well described on the website. The 18 new DIHs will receive financial support to integrate with the existing EUHubs4Data partners and add to the existing and expanding offer of the Federation. But also non-funded but successfully evaluated digital innovation hubs will be invited to participate in outreach activities and events of the project. So, quick slide on the value proposition for the new digital innovation hubs. Once you have joined the Federation, you will receive access to knowledge, data sharing and data space techniques, implementation practices and experience. You will be able to have connection and collaboration with other relevant digital innovation hubs. You are part of a complete ecosystem and future European Federation of Data-Driven Digital Innovation Hubs. You will be able to expand and improve your service portfolio, meaning that you will be able to offer the Europe-wide service catalog in your local ecosystem, but on the other hand, you will be able to offer your service on a European-wide scale. You will add value to your local ecosystem, also with the network of other digital innovation hubs. You will be able to give visibility and positioning at European level. You will be able to participate on events and additional activities, and also you will be able to receive financial support. Very quickly, the most important dates concerning the open call. Until the 15th of June, we have the deadline open. And then this is important for all the big data hubs who would like to apply, but also are thinking about applying for the Europe Digital Innovation Hub program. We will communicate the results until the second half of July. And as Annemarie already mentioned before, you could then add your successful entering of the EUHubs4Data Federation in your AD application, which will be open until end of September. Then we will give the signatures for the subgrant agreements until end of September, and already in October 2021, so this year, you will be able to add your assets to the Federation, participate in the open call for experiments, offer your services to the SMEs, and you will be fully running at the end of the year already and working with us. Thank you very much. And now I pass on to the next person.
Thanks a lot, Barbara. I just copy and paste in the chat the link in our webpage to the open call for DIHs. So if you are interested, you will find there, as Barbara mentioned, all the information about the call that we have launched for DIHs. Notice that the call will close the 15th of June. So if you are interested, just go to the webpage and apply as soon as possible. And if you have any doubt or question, please contact us, because we will be happy to solve your question or your doubts. Thanks a lot, Barbara. Now we will move to Jan, who is I don't know the position, Jan, but you are co-chairing the iSpaces group of BDVA. So, and EUHubs is a member from the very beginning, so you have experience in the group. So now the floor is yours. You can see your screen, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, the organizers, as well, for the opportunity to participate in this session. I will explain how the concept of iSpace is aligned with the activities that we try to do at this federation, EUHubs4Data. So my name is Joan Mas. I'm working at EUHubs, a technology center in Catalonia, based in Barcelona, Spain. Yes, indeed, we're working together with Daniel and others in the BDVA association, in the iSpaces working groups. And as EUHubs and as one of the iSpaces, we are also partners of the EUHubs4Data project. So a little bit of history. What is the idea of iSpace? Well, I would say that an iSpace is a kind of a precursor of the concept of digital innovation hub. It's something that came across a few years ago, 2015, 2016, under the umbrella of the Big Data Value Association. And the idea was to identify those institutions or organizations which are acting as what we now would qualify as a digital innovation hub. So out of the members of the Big Data Value Association, it was somehow trying to identify those organizations who had some of those elements within their portfolio of activities, either because they had infrastructure that could be put as a service towards their community, because they would define services around data technologies, indeed because they were executing and performing projects, multi-sectorial projects or multi-technological projects in the scope of data and data technologies, because they had an ecosystem around to impact and to disseminate the advantages of adopting technologies based on data, and also whether they would have some business or sustainability plans to withstand their operations as an institution. So that was the concept of an iSpace, and indeed that was as well the element, the core element that could go to different activities, like for instance, try to incubate and accelerate new business, new activities based always on data technologies, data-driven ideas. And indeed, iSpaces also would participate in the different activities that were going on at that time, either lighthouse projects, of course, research and innovation projects, etc., etc. The idea of the Big Data Value Association was to produce and to generate a label to those institutions that would qualify as iSpaces. And this label was done according to a certain procedure. This procedure was somehow simple at the beginning. Let's go back to 2016, but with time has been a little bit more complicated. And now the labeling process is very well standardized and very well carried out by the Big Data Value Association responsibles. But the important thing is that if you are labeled as an IA space, that would give the institution with that label visibility, the opportunity to participate in different number of activities. For instance, the possibility to be part of consortium on different European projects, the European calls and then proposals and projects. So it's a big opportunity, and I can explain for our experience from EURECAT. We are supporting one of the IA spaces, the Big Data Center of Excellence based in Barcelona, and it has been a very interesting way of growing, and especially way of adopting data-driven technologies, not only internally in our projects, but also working with companies and SMEs and institutions around our geographical area of impact. So the process for becoming an IA space, therefore for being labeled as an IA space, is the one that you see here at the bottom of the chart. It's an open. There is an open call. Then there is an application that needs to be filled in. The application is asking questions related to the different activities that I was showing in my second or third screen. So in the evaluation, for instance, the resources or the infrastructure, computing infrastructures, for instance, is taking into account the number of projects, the number of sectors that are impacted by this institution, etc., etc. As I said, it's everything very well standardized, and there is a very objective process which allows to make a very objective evaluation on how this institution would meet the requirements for becoming an IA space. So this process is being completed by the final decision taken by the board of directors of the Big Data Value Association, and those applicants that have been selected as IA spaces, then they are announced, and there is even a ceremony that is always taking place in the frame of a Big Data Value Association forum or summit or an event that will provide the host for this ceremony. Okay, the important thing is that the number of IA spaces has been growing in time. You see here a timeline starting in 2016. At that time, there were 5 institutions recognized or labeled as data space, IA space. In our case, in EURECAT, we obtained the bronze label in 2016 at the Valencia Summit. And well, we were somehow increasing or improving our label, because we got silver in 2018 and gold in the last round of labels that took place at the end of 2020. So the important thing is that those are the spaces, as I said, they are in a very well position to participate in different initiatives. Indeed, we are in the EUHubs4Data together with other 11 or 10 or 11 data IA spaces, but also we are in a very good position to participate in the Digital Euro, so all the process of becoming a DIH and the PPPs like this one, AI, data and robotics. And just to conclude, because we are running out of time, just to mention that in EUHubs4Data, there were 11 initial IA spaces with a IA space label. But today we are already 18 of those IA spaces recognized with the label. Indeed, the 7 out of these 18 who are not members of the EUHubs4Data, they will have to apply according to the procedures that Barbara was mentioning minutes ago, to become members of the EUHubs4Data Federation, EUHubs4Data project, according to the calls for that. And just to finish, indeed, the IA space, the concept of IA space is very much aligned with the objectives of the EUHubs4Data. So the idea is that those IA spaces become a regional hub on data and services around data become very important. This is very important, become a reference on local SMEs, on startups and web entrepreneurs, also in the area of data technologies. They will, of course, facilitate the international liaison with other hubs, and this is very much accomplished by the last point activity, which is an active supporting to the cascade funding projects and experiments within the frame of the EUHubs4Data project, and indeed fostering cross-sector interaction. I think that this slide summarizes the alignment of the iSpaces concept with what we are really doing within the EUHubs4Data project. And I think that this concludes my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for the explanation. Just to mention that if you are interested in becoming an iSpace this year, the call is combined with the one for EUHubs4Data that Barbara explained before. So we are running a combined call that in the same call we are recognizing from BDVA new iSpaces, and from those new iSpaces we are selecting some of them or all of them to be funded under the project EUHubs4Data. So again, this is the same call. Well, it's not the same call, but it's a combined call, because at the end of the day, the objectives of the iSpaces group and EUHubs4Data are pretty much the same. Thanks, Joan. Now we will move to the next presentation. Will be a testimony from Marcin from PSNC. Sorry, they are coordinating the HPC4 Poland Digital Innovation Hub. They got the iSpace label last year. So we can say that they are kind of a newcomer in the group of iSpaces, but they are also part of the project EUHubs4Data. So maybe, Marcin, from your perspective, probably you have a very interesting things to say and to share with the rest of the audience. So thanks a lot for coming, and the floor is yours.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for this invitation. It was it's my pleasure to be here with you and present what we are doing at the Poznań Supercomputing Networking Center. So, okay, so basically just to give a background, Poznań Supercomputing Networking Center, we are part of Polish Academy of Science. So basically there are 20 R&D ICT laboratories, and we were participating in over 70 projects Horizon 2020, but also in several Polish research roadmap projects that are established. So we are in Poland acting as leading e-infrastructure operator. So first of all, this is the network. So we are connecting over a few hundred of the institutes, hospitals, governmental institutions with the network. We are also the research metropolitan area network provider, and also leading HPC center. So this is over 5 petaflops, but this is under now major upgrade. Also, we have 2 data centers. This is also now due to several this Polish roadmap projects under major upgrade. So far, this is over 80 petabytes of storage. And we are also leading partner in Data Repositories and Digital Libraries Federation, and basically cloud provider. So, okay, so we are also, and I think that's one of the natural thing for many years, has been working with SMEs and building the ecosystem. We started from the local cluster of Wielkopolska ICT cluster. So in our region in general, there are over 380,000 of SMEs, and the main sectors are the machinery, vehicles, but also furniture, as Wielkopolska is one of the worldwide largest exporter of the furniture. And besides that, we are the main, I would say, agriculture region. With 4 other regions, we are producing over 50% of the food. So that's our background. So basically, we established our DIH in 2016. Now we have 28 partners, including 7 competence centers. And we are candidate also for EDIH. So we provide different kind of group of services. I will not go through it, but as you could see, these are both the business development, technical, but also some other services. This is DIH basically at large. Basically, we are part of several partnerships. And this is the whole process that took already several years. So first of all, for sure in the research area. So for example, we are part of the data sharing and preservation collaborative data infrastructure, that is the EUDAT, but also of the computing, this is PRAISE, but also Internet of Things. Here we are part of Alliance of Internet of Things Innovation. We are running also the Living Lab. As I said before, in terms of network, we are part of JANT. So in 2019, we became partner of BDVA. And as was said, 2020, we've been labeled as Silver iSpace. And yes, we are partners also for data. So, but besides that, we are also co-created the DIH in terms of European Open Science Cloud, but also part of other DIH networks. So I was asked also to give some count of benefits testimonial on how we benefit from this collaboration. So I would say there are much more experienced DIH than us, and so we really learned already by this time how to improve our service offerings and how to formulate things better and how to improve the impact of our offer in interest. I think the big value, we see big value in this federated catalog that federates these different catalogs. As you could see, some of our services that has raised quite some interest in the last open calls of the EUHubs4Data projects. But so we have really access to experts that are complementary and with expertise complementary, but also with the technology that we have not yet available or not available in our hub. So this is a very good opportunity, and there is really a good networking opportunity. So at least this is I would say, one of the main value for now. But for the future, how do we see the value of federation from our perspective, purely of DIH? I would say one of the most important things is the common standards, because if we want really to collaborate, we need those standards on different levels. This is from technical standards, but also on just on collaboration, on exchange of information, on what are the rules, also on how we can collaborate, how we can exchange and offer together services. Also, we're really looking forward for integrated data services, so not individual, but really combined of services, in particular technical services from different DIH. And trust. I think trust is something that is really key for federation. And thanks to it, we could offer more to our SMEs in the network. So many more data sources, etc. So basically, we are also looking to increase the impact of our hub. And okay, there are some, from my perspective, some costs that if each individual hub would need to go through it, this is substantial cost, but we can share those costs in terms of that there is some standards, some procedures, like in terms of legal ethics and other things that we can really profit of having this in whole federation, that this is shared effort, but then each of the individual hub does not have to really perform the same investigation, maybe even with different results. That would be even more problematic. So yes, that's it. Thank you. I hope I not take too much time.
Thanks a lot, Marcin. Well, since this is the last session, I don't think it matters a lot if we extend just for a few minutes our session. So again, take your time. Thanks a lot for your comments. I guess that you are pretty much experienced. We also evaluate your experience in EOSC, which is also a hub, and thanks for your comments. And now, Aiga, this is your your turn. As usual, last but not least, for sure, you are also a newcomer in the AI Spaces group. You are not part of the project EUHubs4Data, but hopefully, okay, we will come with you at least in the collaboration way very soon. So now the floor is yours. If you want to share your experience with us, you're welcome.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for giving the floor, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's very hard to add something that is already said, and thank you, Martin, for giving your testimony, and that's basically we completely agree with you about the benefits and the value of EUHubs4Data initiative, and I will try to give my short testimony and my 5 cents to what is already said from our perspective, from our Digital Innovation Hub. So couple of words again about we are Latvian Digital Innovation Hub based by Latvian IT cluster, and as a cluster all our values and how we built our innovation hub is all about networking and community, and this is this contributes a lot in terms of our values, how we are working, and maybe making my short story even shorter. The couple of things that I really would like to mention about ourselves is our focus is digital transformation of manufacturing SMEs, and we are more focusing on artificial intelligence and data technologies, and we play a very important role to connecting our local ecosystem to European digital community, and I will explain it later how we see this these connections and a contribution from our side, and also getting additional value from being a part of European ecosystem. So in this picture we are showing the roadmap, how we see digital transformation for SMEs, how we are onboarding, how we are then later making assessment and mentoring and training and follow up with technology evaluation, testing and implementation, and ending with new innovations and maintaining digital transformation. So, and this is all to grow digital maturity for SMEs. And in each step of digital maturity of particular SME as a client, we see important partners also on European level. If the first steps like onboarding or assessment, it's a homework that every DIH should do themselves, then in later stages we see that there is a need for partners in terms of common activities, matchmaking or product development. And when we move along the maturity line of SMEs, there is a joint research and pooling expertise needed. And for this, we see a very important role for BDVA spaces that we already are, and also EUHubs4Data. In Latvia, we have 100,000 SMEs. In Europe, in total, there is estimated 25 million of SMEs, and we can't be an individual guide in digitalization for every single SME. It's just impossible. Therefore, we see that we need to create a mechanism how to make this multiplication effect in SME digitalization or SME digital transformation. And we see 4 crucial aspects, at least in our DIH, how we are working so that this multiplication takes effect. So the first is we see industrial corporates as a part of ecosystem that are creating this multiplication effect on digitalization. we see digital skills and knowledge creating the same effect. And then there is we move to international aspect, to international community, and this is innovation and technology providers that we can access in our global networks. And there is also technology, data collaboration and innovation networks that again can create this multiplication effect that can create a value for our DIH, and also vice versa. We see ourselves also as a contributors to European networks. So basically, 4 things that we see from EUHubs4Data: it's a growth, it's a knowledge, it's an innovation, and it's of course value for the whole ecosystem. So I hope I was very fast.
Yes, you were, Aiga, but at the same time, it was very, very valuable. Your value from Latvia, from your DIH, from your ecosystem. And okay, so I wish we will you have on board very soon in our project or in our ecosystem. Now we have been finished with the presentations, and I don't see any question in the chat. So probably it is already time that we are finishing our session. Maybe Marcin, Aiga, I have a couple of questions for you. And it is basically about the challenges, of course, because at the end of the day, it's about value, and you already highlighted the value that you see in the federation. But how about the most challenging aspects from your experience, from your DIH, from your ecosystem that you see? Aiga, maybe we can start with you from Latvia, from your ecosystem. Which is the challenge that you see the more, let's say, difficult to overcome to create this federation?
At least for us, the greatest challenge was to think of the value that we can contribute ourselves. So, of course, locally, we see a lot of good things that we are doing, and we always used to think that we are very capable of everything. But it's important to think in a European or even global level. So what are the things that we are really top-notch? So what are the things that we really can contribute? And this value proposition for a global network, it's quite challenging for us.
Okay, so I see this is related to what Anne-Marie mentioned before about the complementarities and what we can offer to each other. In your case, Marcin, you are involved in several other projects. You have experience from EOSC. I don't know if you have...
Yeah, I would say, because I'm always more close to technology itself, technological challenges, I would say. So for me, it's really, I would say in long term, could be kind of a challenge for, I would say, for production services, really, those like related to computing, well, data is related to computing as well, but this is about how to integrate these production services in terms of providing appropriate level of trust and appropriate level of security. Okay, that's one point. And for the federation itself, I see one of I would say never-ending problem of what are the rules of providing other service to my SME. So I would say, do you have to do it each time ad hoc, the negotiation, or is there some offer towards it? And it is something that we for sure will work out in EUHubs4Data, but as long as there is no real money involved, that's less problem. I would say not in cash, but as you start the things with the cash flow, right, with some experimenting, etc. How in such federation, in the more federation it is, the more difficult could it be in my perspective, right?
I know, you are right. We're struggling with that. Hopefully, we will reach a success conclusion before the end of the project. But you're completely right. Thanks a lot. Well, Kimmo, I see that you are still in the call. I really appreciate your time. Maybe you can close with the last remark. Otherwise, we can close the session now. Kimmo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we can see you also. Perfect.
back with a picture. I think it's too late for a closing remark. I just thank all who brought in their insight to this session, and I hope we continue tomorrow in this other session on data spaces and incubators.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Kimmo. Thanks, Anna, Barbara, Marcin, Aiga. Thanks also, Joan and Marie, who left. And also thanks to all who connected and who found our session interesting. With that, we will close the session. Anna, maybe you have time to make a picture of ourselves.
I already did some.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I will close the session. Thanks a lot. Have a very nice evening, and talk to you all tomorrow, probably, hopefully. Bye-bye.